Hi, I'm Nina.
Hi, I'm Ife. This is my father's house, and you're welcome to my room.
Think of this as a corner where we share our thoughts, opinions, ask questions, and review the messages from our Tins and Gins Sundays, but most importantly, tie it back to our realities as youth living in this wonderful world. So let's get started.
Yay!
How was your week, Ife?
My week was amazing. I'm currently, doing co-op, so I feel like a very professional adult.
Yes, I love that. Co-op is great. My week was good too. Work from home, just going about. But we thank God, my week was great.
And I hope you guys listened to us had amazing weeks as well.
Yes, we hope you had to. But most importantly, we hope you've listened to our previous episode. Make sure you have, because what else are you doing?
Yeah.
Last month's message, Sam did an amazing job,
In God we trust.
Yes. He almost did our work for us. He broke it down so well that at some point I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to say?
Really simple and really easy to follow, very practical.
Yeah.
A++.
Yes, we give him a 5-star rating. But then let me just before we get started, let me just read from our anchor verse here. Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I really like how Sam took trust and related it to leaning on something, because I think it gave a very visual picture of what trust means. Like the chair example that he used. And even as humans, us always looking for something or someone to lean on because we are not strong enough in ourselves, right? But then he also brought up that really good point that if I'm looking for someone to lean on and I'm human, chances are another human out there is also looking for someone to lean on. So it's almost like the blind leading the blind type situation.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I thought it was really, like you said, just really easy to visualize and see. And then just looking at it like that, it made me understand or just acknowledge and realize how silly it is almost to try to lean on yourself or lean on other people. Yeah.
We do a lot of silly things as humans. If you think about it, and the problem is that in the moment you're not seeing it as silly.
Yeah.
In the moment that you're like, yes, I need to do this. This person that I'm leaning on. If it's your friend, if it's your partner, and yes, of course, this person is going to be there 100% of the time. But what we don't realize is that person is also human and they'd also need to lean on something to support us.
Yeah.
So it's just a constant line of people
like dominoes,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so what would you say was your key takeaway from the message you've had?
I think my key takeaway from the message would be that there's really no point in trying to lean on myself, not other people, because I find that I'm someone who I tend to rely on myself a lot, I think. And then when Samuel talked about how when we look at ourselves in a mirror or something like that and we're weak and we're trying to rely on ourselves, but that person in the mirror is also weak and trying to rely.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah. So that's definitely, it was very eye-opening to me. And I was like, what am I doing right now? I should just lean on God and trust in him instead of trying to trust in myself, because I've let myself down a lot. Yeah.
When I was listening to the message, the question that popped up in my head was why don't we actually trust in God? Sam has done a good job of explaining why we should, and by normal human reasoning or by logic, then we should do that. We should in fact put our trust in God. And you know what came to my mind is that a lot of us have trust issues. and then especially young adults, we've been through things that have, or we've been around people, been with people that have betrayed our trust in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And then we're projecting that on God. I'm gonna say that again.
Repeat it.
So a lot of us have had our trust broken by human beings, even by ourselves. Like you just said, sometimes you disappoint yourself and then you can't trust yourself anymore. But then now when you bring God into the picture and somebody's telling you trust God, you want to, but then because of the trust issues, you're projecting that on God and saying, well, I've tried trusting somebody before, they let me down. So I'm just going to do it on myself, by myself. I don't need anybody's help, And then we're doing more harm than good by doing that. But because of, again, the underlying issue, we can't bring ourselves to trust God.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how those people are going to navigate this, navigate putting their trust 100% of the time. Because again, from our previous episode, we talked about cherry picking, right? You can't say, I'm going to trust God with my finances, but not trust God with my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'm going to trust God when things are going good and not trust God when things are going bad. You have to trust Him 100% of the time. But then most of us, at least, I know that's something I struggle with, right? Because I'm trying to be open and honest with everybody on this podcast.
Okay.
But like keeping it 100, it's like we struggle with putting our trust in God.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I can think of is that there must be some underlying trust issue preventing us from being vulnerable with God.
Yeah. And maybe we just need to realize that God is not human.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah, I think it's easy to say, well, God's not human, forget, like, nah, just get over it and just trust God. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but I think when we just try our best to understand just how much God loves us and how much He cares for us and how really nothing can separate us from that love, I think that could maybe provide some solution to that. But then definitely there's going to have to be a lot of self-healing. I think, like working on ourselves before we're able to, trust God. Or do you think we should just go ahead and trust God first and then ask Him to help us with those trust issues too? Honestly, like, what's that first step there?
Honestly, it's like the whole chicken and egg, which comes first. To trust God fully, we have to work on the trust issues, right? Yeah. Like you said. But again, we can't do everything by our power. We need to trust God to help us to work on that.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that situation where something is holding you back from doing the thing that's going to stop you from, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think, like all things with time, like these things take time, of course. When you meet a new person, you don't trust them instantly.
Yes, that is that's very true.
So you met God for the first time. You're not going to trust Him. Well, maybe sometimes people say, you know what, it was an encounter that just, and that's
love
great.
At first
love
sight.
That for you. It was love at first sight with God.
Trust at first sight.
Trust, oh my God, trust at first encounter. I love that for you. But unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of people. That's something that you have to work on, And then I think as you get to build, remember last month we talked about steps, building steps. As you get to build that relationship with God, you're also building your trust in God. But I think it's weird, right? Because it's easier said than done, especially with God. Like if it was a human, you're seeing them, you're in contact with them, physical, you can't. But then with God, it's more like you're relying on someone you can't see.
Yeah.
So and it's funny because I think that's another reason why a lot of people don't trust God. Because you can't see God.
Okay.
So I'd rather, like, it's like telling me to sit and I'm looking and there's no chair. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to sit. I'd rather sit on a chair with 3 legs.
Yeah.
Than sit on an invisible chair.
Yes.
That's just my human reasoning.
That's it. That's human reasoning. That's the world reasoning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it takes a level of faith to say, oh, you're telling me to sit. I don't see a chair, but I trust that by obeying you, I'm not going to fall.
Yeah. And like, even as you're saying that, it's almost like it's scary. Almost. It's like you have to take this leap of faith or like this, just take this plunge. And then, you're hoping that, there'll be an invisible chair there waiting for you. And there is, but it's just scary to almost like take that plunge,
Trust is scary. Trust is a very scary thing, especially like I said, if someone has betrayed your trust before, getting to trust somebody else again, there's nothing more scary than that, in my opinion. But then, what comes to mind currently as I'm thinking about that is the Bible says His plans for us are good and not of evil.
Yeah.
Right? So even like I'm imagining myself working on my trust with God, and God tells me sit, and I'm like, God, I don't see a chair.
Where?
Right? Like where sit where? And then, but in that moment, I'm imagining that scripture in my mind, like His plans for me are good and not evil. I mean, if He tells me to sit and there's no chair, I should trust that he has a good plan for me and he's not crazy.
Yeah.
Because it sounds crazy telling somebody to sit down.
He just wants to see you fall.
Yeah, no. He's just trying to embarrass me right now. I'd rather what is this man saying? Sit when there's no chair, But again, it's easier said than done.
It is.
But I think scriptures like that helps put things in perspective, helps redirect our focus, like Sam said. He did touch on focus. And what do you think, because he did mention like sometimes, a lot of times our focus is misplaced.
Yeah.
We're looking at other people, instead of looking at God. We're comparing our lives. Comparison really is the thief of joy, what do you think about how a lot of us young adults have misplaced our focus, and that's preventing us from trusting God?
I feel like with the media we consume every day, like I feel like we're even encouraged to, we're definitely not encouraged to rely on God. We're encouraged to rely on ourselves, to, you can do this, you got this, you can,
you go girl,
you do this, or
self-made.
Or we're even encouraged to rely on our partners, and that brings up that whole like, is it like over relying on or putting too much emotional burden on someone? So I think like the media we consume, we're not encouraged to rely on God. And then I think because of that, it's almost sort of like built this default setting in us where we're in a problem. My first instinct isn't to ask God. My first instinct is to Google or to maybe YouTube it, or to ask
Siri.
A friend. Siri.
It's so easy these days to not trust God. Actually, let me say that a different way. Our default setting makes us not want to. This is like, why do I gotta ask God when Google is gonna give me the result in like 0.00000 something seconds? It's like, sure, I'm sick, right? I'm not feeling too great. Why do I gotta like trust God to heal me when I can just walk down to Shepherd's Drug Mart? So I think what Sam was heading at is that we need to redirect our focus. Yeah, sure, we have all these man-made solutions. Yeah, sure, God gave us the minds and the brains to build these things to help us. I'm not trying to undermine these things. But I'm saying I think our approach should be, instead of, hey Alexa, what is the weather today? Should we, hey God, what are your plans today? Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It sounds cringe, or it might sound some type of way, but like, the truth is, those little things affect the bigger things in our lives.
It does.
If you can bring God into those little things. I had someone similar time. It sounded really crazy at the time. She's like, before she leaves her house, she asked the Holy Spirit what to wear. And I'm like, yeah, sis, you're happy. I'm like, yeah, cap. And I'm like, But now I'm thinking about it, and it's like she has made a conscious decision to bring God into the little things in her life. So when it comes to big things, it's so much more easier for her because it's built into her routine. That type of person will not find it difficult to trust God when she's looking for a job or she's trying to get married and like, but nobody's in her DMs. You know what I'm saying? So I think you made a good point there, talking about your default settings and like, so how do you think? What's a practical way to like start changing those?
Your default.
Yeah.
I feel like the only way to change it is to change it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Like, I think first and foremost, the very first step is like, I'll even ask you guys right now, just like stop for 2 seconds and think about it. When there's a problem, ask yourself, what's the very first thing I do? So I think let's identify that, because we all have different.
What's the first thing you do?
Me?
Yeah.
Cry.
Oh my God, I can relate.
Cry, eat, sleep.
Period.
And then maybe ask some friends. So I think identify that thing, and then like ask yourself, how do I replace this thing with God? So maybe if your default setting right now is to Google, and you ask Google, what should I do when blah, blah, blah. So now you can replace that with like asking God, what should I do when blah, 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 blah.
And then God might even tell you, Google it. So it's like,
and that's the thing about like, I think when you ask God, or when you ask God for advice, or what do I do when this is going on, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing.
And all and be all. Yeah, definitely.
It's just, you're just taking that very first strong step in the right direction when you ask God first. And yes, like you said, like he might redirect you to this person or that person or this thing or that thing, you know? And you know that when God redirects you to something else, you know 100% that you're not going to like miss it. Like he's pointing you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Know?
I mean, as you were saying that, you know what came to mind? I'm thinking about married couples or even people that are dating. You know, if your partner goes off and like gets this new hairstyle and they didn't want to ask you, so you feel some type of way. Like, how come you don't value my opinion? You know, and I'm trying to like think of God from that because it helps to like practicalize these things, and it's like God is just looking at us like, oh, so you just went and bought that house. You didn't ask about my opinion. Like you don't even want to know what I have to say about it. I mean, what if I like it? Like that's how I'm thinking about it. And then I know my default. I'm trying to think of what my default is. I think I call my brothers.
Okay.
I just like, oh my God, this just happened. What to do? I mean, and then they tell me to Google it.
Redirection after redirection.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that shows you that sometimes man can't help you.
Yeah.
And you'd have to go find someone that's always there for you. Yeah. Well, first of all, someone that created all of this.
Yeah.
The same way you check an owner's
manual. Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's the same way you should be checking the manual for things like this.
Yeah.
Insightful. I feel like we've talked about a lot of things. We always have this very power-packed 15 minutes. And it's just intense, for a hot minute and then. But so what are you taking in your back pocket today?
My default setting. I think my default setting is so problematic because like most of the time it's not like the problem gets solved. And then do you know what I find is that when I do like what I normally do, which is like I'll cry, I'll eat, I'll sleep. And then that means the problem starts piling up, right? Because I'm not actually doing anything about it. Then I'll Google, then I'll cry, eat, And then it's almost as if right now, my last resort is trusting in God. It's almost like an act of, oh, I've tried everything else. It's not working. Fine. I'll ask you, God. I'll do it. I'll trust in you.
And you better work because people said you work,
Yeah.
And be on time too because, yeah.
So it's almost like right now, that's my last step. So what I'm taking away with me right now is that I need to find a way to bring, I'm going to bring that last step to become the first step. Yeah. So
I want to say, it's the same for me, definitely, like redirecting my focus. But then for me, I think what I want to work on is bringing God into the little things to build that trust with Him.
Cute. I can just imagine you in the mirror in the morning. I rate this dress.
I don't know if I'm going to do that.
Does this just make me look fat?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, now you're saying it makes it sound cringy. I'm cringing. Like maybe we should start somewhere else then. Okay. But like bringing God into like little things, little decisions that you're doing, little issues you're having. Like, God, I trust you to help me with this. Or God, I trust you to change this for me or fix this, when you just say, Jesus, take the wheel, man. Like, this is too much, So I think that's something I want to work on. And you know what? Maybe in our next session, we'll share how that goes. Like, okay. Because we have a month, right? Yeah. So we'll share with you guys how, in the first case, changing her default settings, and in my case, bringing God into the little things, how that worked for us, if we have any practical tips that helped, and if it was a total fail. I'm not sure if I'd share that.
No, let's be honest. We'll be honest with you guys. Yes, how it goes.
We will. And then you be honest with us too. We haven't gotten any DMs. We want to hear from you.
Don't expose us like...
We want to hear from you too. How are you going to start trusting God more? Or in Sam's words, how are you going to start redirecting your focus so that you're putting your trust in God? Yeah.
And if your focus is clear right now, how are you doing it?
Yes. We need tips.
What's your secret?
We need tips.
Don't be shy.
Yes, we grow by lifting others, guys. Like, we want to hear from you if it's working. You can leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, or if they can send us a DM on Instagram, right?
Of course, yes.
Right. Okay. So, I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
Pretty excited for the next month.
Me too.
And if I do want to tell them where they're going to find us.
Okay, well, you can listen to us on Spotify,
Mhm.
on Anchor,
Yes.
on YouTube,
Yes, you can.
on Google Podcasts.
Yes, you can. Apple Podcasts too? Do you think? Maybe
Sure,
not.
if you want
We'll
to.
look into that for you guys.
Okay. Well, we're everywhere, you know. We have a lot of links, and that will be all below if you're watching this on YouTube right now. And, you know, we look forward to another beautiful episode next month.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, this is my Father's house, and there's room for you too.
Bye.
Bye.